Finally, I'm going to answer the big question in sim racing, and that is, what is the ultimate VR sim racing experience? Yes, virtual reality is an absolute game changer in sim racing. It is just better because you get the 3D depth perception that you don't have in a two-dimensional screen. And that 3D depth perception means that you use braking markers intuitively, you place your car more realistically, and you really feel like you're racing other drivers in a three-dimensional space. So I've taken two Titans here, and we're going to put them head-to-head, and I'm going to show you some stuff, some details, some analysis of VR sim racing that frankly you will have never seen before. So in the blue corner, I've gone for Gran Turismo 7 on the PS5 in the PSVR 2 headset. I'll let you know why in this video. And on the red corner above here, you can see I've gone for Assetto Corsa Competizione on a top-of-the-range PC running the incredible Pimax Crystal VR headset. Now, there are other VR sim racing games like Automobilista, Dirt Rally, but there's reasons I've gone for these two that I'm going to go into. But let's start off here with an analysis. So at the top, you've got ACC. On the bottom, you've got GT7. On the top, I am going into Eau Rouge in Spa in a Ferrari 488 GT3, and it looks like I cannot see a single thing. You see my left-hand side look relatively calm, but the obstruction from the spray and the mist and the fog looks so dense that I can't possibly see where I'm going. But this is exactly what you cannot see in 2D. In 3D, that is all volumetric, so I can actually just about see through it. I can just see that red strip from, it looks like the AMG ahead as it's braking, and I can get my bearings right, and that's something you absolutely cannot do in 2D. And by the way, if you look at Gran Turismo 7 does not do nearly as anything close to the intense weather effects there, because I don't think it quite has the same level of detail. So this is Gran Turismo 7 in VR on the PSVR 2, and the eagle-eyed amongst you will spot this is not as good quality as Gran Turismo 7 in 4K. And by the way, there's so many technical things going on here that I'm not sure if you want to know a lot, but very briefly, PSVR 2 is a headset that runs at 120 Hz, but Gran Turismo is actually running at 60 frames a second, and every other frame they sort of guess what should happen and they reproject it, and that reprojection adds quite a lot of blurriness, so I'm sensitive to blurriness. Now the Pimax Crystal is also a 120 Hz headset, but it will genuinely run at 120 Hz if you have a PC that's good enough for it. You can also do a 90 mode, you can also do, I think maybe a 70 Hz mode as well. But the Pimax Crystal, because you can run it with a really beefy PC, will genuinely get that butter smooth 120 Hz. Just an aside, Gran Turismo 7 does have a 120 FPS mode on PS5, so why they haven't synced that, I don't know. But here we are in ACC, and you can see, I hope, that the track details, the track objects, and the quality of the cars around us is just of a much higher quality in the Pimax Crystal. So this ACC experience is just more immersive, and I really feel like the more detail you have in a VR experience, the more you feel like you're actually there in a 3D space of that scale. And I sort of have a toy car effect. When some things aren't quite as high poly, I feel like I'm just racing toy cars. So you can see here, that's a great example because we were around two Mercedes-AMG GT3 cars, and you can definitely see that the AMG GT3 in the top is of much higher quality at various different level of detail. So you see below, we're going to catch up with this AMG GT3. Oh, great footage here. It never gets up to the quality we see at the top. It's sort of a bit blurry in the PSVR 2, and it feels even blurrier in the headset, although I definitely think they've improved that since launch. They've done a load of updates where they don't say what they're updating, but for me, it's definitely improved the clarity. But just look at the track detailing here. Look at the trees, for example. The trees in ACC. It's not exactly the same track, by the way. It's Monza below, it's Brands Hatch above, but, you know, similar actually. Very similar tracks when you come to think about it in this way. And there's just so much more quality going on ahead. I love the way cars glint ahead. You don't quite get the same subtle glinting in Gran Turismo. You can see the glinting is very heavy and big. But these are very small details. And when we're thinking about what's the ultimate sim racing VR experience, there are a lot of factors that come into play. So Gran Turismo, you do get so many cars. Massive credit to what they did in GT7 with the PSVR 2. You can drive every single car in the game in virtual reality, and the vast majority are in like this cockpit view. There's a tiny handful where you end up sort of driving on the bonnet, but the majority are in cockpit like this. That means you can drive these crazy 1960s Formula 1 cars at Goodwood, as I'm doing here. You can drive this, looks like a Radical here, at a fictional track in Switzerland. You have so much variety. You don't get that in ACC. ACC, you are driving GT3s, you are driving GT2s, GT4s, and like there's a couple of cup cars as well. But that's kind of what you got. You're basically going to be inside a cockpit. And there is actually something very special about VR when you're not in a cockpit and you've got the million miles of open sky ahead of you that I do really like. So that is definitely a downside for ACC. What you do get with ACC in these GT cars, and like I said, I never mention it, but I've driven this exact racing car in real life, and I'm in it now, and it looks pretty much exactly the same. I use a different steering wheel, but the accuracy of the cockpit is much higher in ACC. The quality of the materials here is actually coming across in the video quite nicely. If you look at this Sable, the sort of rigging there, and you can see also the dash, the subtle material on the dash, and also the race suit is incredibly detailed. Even the dash as well. When you look at the footage in this video, by the way, look at the dashes in GT7. They're definitely not as detailed, and they're not as functional either. So ACC VR is such a well done experience. If you have the PC to run it, it is so immersive. That's definitely a big thing for ACC. Now, I'm trying to cheat here a little bit and give you an outside view of the car, which you're not really meant to do. You can see me sort of, what am I doing with my face there? As I'm trying to get the footage that you need. Gran Turismo has this built in, so if you want to admire your cars from the outside, you can do that in GT7. You can't do it in ACC really. But let me know if that's a big deal or not. And by the way, please do make sure you're subscribed. If you want to see more VR footage on the channel, I've got absolutely loads of it. Now I want to show you here, I'm looking at the steering wheels, I'm looking at the dash, and you can see that the GT7 dash, I mean, it changes per car, but way more basic than what we have in ACC. And there is a pattern starting to emerge here that things are just generally more detailed in the PC ACC version. So if you can, afford to get the headset is super expensive. It's $1,500 for that Pimax. I do have a discount code inscription. I think it gets you $100 off at least. Then you're going to have a better experience. The PSVR 2 G7 is cheaper, but it's still really damn expensive. And if you're getting a steering wheel, a headset, the PS5, it's all adding up. But on paper, I'm actually going to say ACC, for me, is a better VR experience. But GT7 is just so accessible. If you've already got a wheel and GT7 and a PS5 and you're thinking about trying virtual reality, the PSVR 2 is such a good option at just getting a really good quality experience. And that's why it's so frustrating that there are so many quality of life features they could add so easily, like a button to reset your view straight on and a button to turn the HUD on and off. But I've got a separate video on that, so go check this video out. I hope this helped, and I'll see you next time.